Welcome back to our channel. Today we're diving deep into the unsettling world of Amnesia: The Dark Descent, focusing on one of the most iconic settings in horror gaming, Castle Brandenburg. What secrets lie within its damp stone walls? Join us as we unravel the mysteries of this haunting castle and the story of its tragic past. Castle Brandenburg is not just a backdrop, it's a character unto itself. Located in the fictional Prussian countryside, it was built in the late 19th century by Baron Alexander von Brandenburg. Originally, it served as a noble residence but quickly became shrouded in darkness due to the Baron's sinister experiments. The castle's design reflects the Baron's descent into madness, featuring intricate but decaying architecture, ominous dungeons, and labyrinth passages that seem to pull players deeper into dread. The castle acts as a physical manifestation of Alexander's own tortured psyche. Central to Amnesia: The Dark Descent is the exploration of forbidden knowledge and the consequences of unbridled ambition. Alexander's experiments delved into the realms of alchemy and the dark arts, trying to transcend humanity itself. Players encounter journals and notes that reveal his horrific dealings with the Shadow, a malevolent entity. The castle itself becomes a tomb for both the Baron's victims and his monstrous creations, beings born from his desperate attempts to forge a new reality. One of the most striking aspects of Castle Brandenburg is its ability to evoke fear. The constantly shifting environment, accompanied by haunting sounds and the ever-looming presence of the Shadow, creates an unrelenting sense of dread. As players navigate the castle, the tension escalates. Each room tells a story of the past. The cries of the damned echo in the halls, and every flicker of light reveals glimpses of disturbing truths. Ultimately, Castle Brandenburg is more than just a setting. It's a living testament to the destructive power of guilt and ambition. It serves as a reminder of the horrors that can arise when one seeks knowledge at any cost. Everyone knows fear, but have you explored the depths of sanity? Let's unravel the sanity system and how it affects your experience in this haunted world. What is the sanity system? In Amnesia: The Dark Descent, the sanity system is a critical element that adds to the atmospheric horror of the game. Unlike many horror titles, this game introduces a unique mechanic where your character's mental stability directly affects its gameplay. Your sanity is primarily influenced by two things: the darkness you find yourself in, and the horrifying events you witness. The more you linger in darkness or face nightmarish creatures, the more your sanity deteriorates. Sanity degradation. As Daniel's sanity decreases, the game will manifest this in various ways. You may start to see unsettling visual distortions, auditory hallucinations, and the haunting whispers that fill the air. This degradation impacts not only your perception, but also your ability to navigate the world. As your mind unravels, simply tasks can become daunting challenges, making encounters with the game's terrifying foes even more harrowing. Maintaining sanity. So, how do you maintain your sanity? The game encourages players to stay in well-lit areas. Lighting will help counteract the creeping madness that lurks in the shadows. Collecting oil for lamps and candles becomes essential. Therefore, exploring your environment is crucial for survival. Not only will you find necessary items, but you also stave off the sinister effects of darkness. Interestingly, the sanity system is more than just a health mechanic. It enhances the psychological horror. The fear of what could happen next lingers, making every dark corner feel alive with dread. Unlike many horror games that rely on jump scares, Amnesia immerses you in a psychological battlefield. Your mental state forces you to confront not only the monsters in the game, but also the monsters within yourself. The in-universe significance. Daniel's journey showcases the fragility of the mind. The sanity system isn't merely a gameplay feature, it mirrors the narrative of guilt and penance that runs deep throughout the story. As you uncover Daniel's haunting past, the descent into madness feels tragically inevitable. Conclusion. In Amnesia: The Dark Descent, the sanity system takes horror to a whole new level. By balancing light and darkness, players are plunged into a harrowing experience that lingers long after the game is over. If you traverse the dark, haunting halls of Brandenburg Castle, you've encountered a malevolent presence known simply as the Shadow. But what exactly is the Shadow? What does it represent? Let's uncover the terrifying secrets that lurk within the shadows. What is the shadow? The shadow is not just a frightening entity. It is a manifestation of Daniel's fears and guilt. It relentlessly stalks him throughout his journey, a reminder of the horrifying deeds he committed in the past, specifically the horrific experiments he was involved in while serving the Baron of Brennenburg. In essence, the shadow serves as an antagonist that symbolizes Daniel's torment and the haunting consequences of his actions. It represents the guilt he can't escape, no matter how hard he runs. The shadow is not just a passive threat, but an active one, invoking a sense of dread in the player. When Daniel's sanity begins to dwindle, the shadow becomes more aggressive. You must manage not only your physical space, but your mental state as well. When Daniel is exposed to darkness for too long or witnesses unsettling events, his sanity decreases. As his mental stability crumbles, the shadow grows more powerful, heightening the tension and forcing players to strategize their movements and use light sources wisely. To fully understand the shadow, we need to look back into the harrowing backstory. Daniel, seeking to eradicate his own guilt, foolishly tampered with dark forces. The prominent artifact, the orb, allows him to harness this otherworldly energy, but it also opens the door to something far more sinister. While the orb stored tremendous power, it also attracted the shadow, which is tied to the energy of the orb. The shadow thrives on fear and feeds on Daniel's remorse, compelling him to confront the darkness he wishes to forget. Visually, the shadow is designed to evoke fear and uncertainty. Its amorphous form, reminiscent of smoke or a wraith, allows it to blend into the darkness seamlessly. This design not only heightens the suspense, but also signifies Daniel's internal struggle. The shadow symbolizes not just a looming threat, but also the darkness that exists within every human. It's an embodiment of guilt, the fear of the unknown, and the consequences of one's actions. In many ways, the shadow is a mirror reflecting Daniel's inner turmoil. As we explore Amnesia's chilling world, the shadow serves as a reminder that the most terrifying monsters often reside within ourselves. Daniel's pursuit of redemption leads him deeper into the darkness, creating an emotional and psychological experience that leaves a lasting impression on players. What do you think about the shadow? Is it merely a frightening entity, or is it deeper? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this exploration into the dark corners of Amnesia: The Dark Descent, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more content. Amnesia: The Dark Descent, the inaugural installment in the Amnesia video game series, emerged as a revolutionary masterpiece that set a new standard for horror gaming. While subsequent entries in the franchise have introduced their own unique elements and innovations, Amnesia: The Dark Descent remains a standout title due to several key factors that set it apart from its successors. Immersive and atmospheric setting. Amnesia: The Dark Descent transports players to a crumbling medieval castle, shrouded in darkness and filled with haunting sounds and unsettling imagery. The game's oppressive atmosphere and relentless sense of dread create a truly immersive experience that lingers long after the player logs off. Physical and mental peril. Unlike later Amnesia games, The Dark Descent emphasizes both physical and mental vulnerability. Players are not only pursued by monstrous creatures, but also face the constant threat of losing their sanity. The game's unique sanity mechanic, which gradually degrades as players witness traumatic events, adds another layer of psychological horror to the experience. Non-linear exploration. Unlike the more linear structure of subsequent Amnesia games, The Dark Descent offers a more open-ended exploration. Players navigate the castle labyrinthine corridors, uncovering secrets and solving puzzles at their own pace. This non-linearity contributes to the game's sense of isolation and disorientation. Minimal combat. Amnesia: The Dark Descent intentionally limits combat to a minimum, forcing players to rely on stealth and wit to survive. This design choice heightens the tension and fear as players know that any encounter with a monster could be their last. Psychological impact. While later Amnesia games explored different narrative themes, The Dark Descent focuses primarily on psychological horror. The game's relentless pursuit by horrific creatures and the degradation of the protagonist's sanity create a deeply unsettling and unforgettable experience that stays with the player long after the game ends. Impact on the horror genre. Amnesia: The Dark Descent played a significant role in revitalizing and redefining the horror genre in video games. Its emphasis on atmosphere, psychological elements, and limited combat inspired a wave of new titles that embraced a more immersive and terrifying approach to horror. Conclusion. Amnesia: The Dark Descent remains a groundbreaking and exceptional horror game that stands apart from its successors. Its immersive setting, relentless sense of dread, non-linear exploration, psychological impact, and minimal combat have cemented its status as a masterpiece in the genre. While subsequent Amnesia games have introduced their own strengths and themes, the Dark Descent's unique blend of elements continues to make it a standout title that sets it apart from the rest of the franchise. Released in 2010, Amnesia: The Dark Descent has become a cult classic in the video game world. As a first-person horror game, it has captivated players with its masterful blend of psychological terror, eerie atmosphere, and an unforgettable protagonist. This article explores what makes Amnesia: The Dark Descent so exceptional and why it continues to haunt gamers to this day. Psychological terror at its finest. Amnesia: The Dark Descent doesn't rely on gore or jump scares to generate horror. Instead, it focuses on a slow-burning, psychological approach that instills a sense of dread and paranoia in the player. The game constantly plays with the player's perception of reality, blurring the lines between what is real and what is imagined. The protagonist's deteriorating mental state, reflected in hallucinations and memory loss, further adds to the atmosphere of uncertainty and fear. An eerie and immersive atmosphere. The desolate, labyrinthine castle of Brennenburg is the game's primary setting, and it has been crafted with meticulous attention to detail. Every creaking floorboard, flickering torch, and oppressive shadow evokes a profound sense of unease. The game's sound design is equally impressive, with ambient noises and eerie music creating a constant feeling of being watched and hunted. The combination of visuals and audio creates an incredibly immersive experience that draws players deep into the game's twisted world. The unforgettable protagonist, Daniel. The player takes control of Daniel, a young man who awakens in Brennenburg Castle with no memory of his past. Daniel's vulnerability and fragile mental state make him an instantly relatable protagonist. As the player progresses through the game, they uncover more about Daniel's hidden secrets and the horrors he has experienced. This personal stake in the story creates a deep and emotional connection, making the player truly invested in Daniel's survival and redemption. The power of suggestion. Amnesia: The Dark Descent relies heavily on suggestion and the player's imagination to create a sense of terror. The game rarely shows the true horrors that lurk in the castle, instead using shadows, sound, and cryptic notes to imply the presence of unseen threats. This approach allows the player's mind to fill in the blanks, creating an even more frightening experience. The enduring legacy. Since its release, Amnesia: The Dark Descent has become a benchmark for psychological horror games. Its innovative approach to storytelling, immersive atmosphere, and unforgettable protagonists have inspired countless imitators. The game's modding community has also played a significant role in expanding its legacy, creating new custom stories and game modes that continue to challenge and entertain players. Conclusion. Amnesia: The Dark Descent is a masterpiece of psychological horror that has left an enduring mark on the video game landscape. Its use of slow-burning tension, eerie atmosphere, and relatable protagonists creates a uniquely unsettling experience that stays with players long after they have finished playing. As a testament to its quality, the game has spawned numerous sequels, spin-offs, and mods, ensuring that its legacy will continue to haunt generations of gamers for years to come. In the realm of horror video games, Amnesia: The Dark Descent stands as a towering testament to the power of psychological terror. Developed by Frictional Games, this game has captivated players worldwide with its unique blend of atmosphere, gameplay, and storytelling that sets it apart from the rest of the horror genre. An immersive and claustrophobic atmosphere. Amnesia's greatest strength lies in its ability to create an oppressive and claustrophobic atmosphere that envelops the player from the moment they step into the crumbling castle of Brennenburg. Darkness and eerie sound effects permeate every corner, creating a constant sense of unease and vulnerability. The game's minimalist art style and limited lighting contribute to the unsettling ambience, leaving the player with a perpetual feeling of being stalked and hunted. Survival-focused gameplay. Unlike many horror games that rely on jump scares and violence, Amnesia takes a more subtle approach. The focus is primarily on survival as the player navigates the castle's labyrinthine corridors, avoiding the terrifying creatures that lurk within. The game's unique sanity mechanic adds another layer to the gameplay as the player's mind slowly deteriorates from the horrors they witness. Psychological terror at its finest. Amnesia's strength lies in its relentless psychological torment. The game preys on the player's fears of the unknown and the uncanny. The creatures that stalk the castle are grotesque and otherworldly, their movements and sounds designed to unsettle and disturb. The game's narrative delves into these themes of memory, identity, and the fragility of the human mind, adding depth to the horror experience. A unique storytelling approach. Amnesia's story is presented in a fragmented and nonlinear fashion, gradually revealing the protagonist's past and the secrets of the Dark Castle. The player pieces together the narrative through environmental clues, journal entries, and ghostly apparitions. This fragmented storytelling adds to the game's disorienting and unsettling atmosphere, leaving the player constantly questioning their sanity and the true nature of their surroundings. Challenging and rewarding gameplay. Amnesia is not for the faint of heart. The game's survival-focused gameplay and psychological intensity can be overwhelming at times. However, the sense of accomplishment that comes from overcoming the challenges and unraveling the game's mysteries is immense. Amnesia rewards players who are willing to confront their fears and push through the darkness. Conclusion. Amnesia: The Dark Descent is a horror masterpiece that sets a new standard for psychological terror in video games. Its immersive atmosphere, survival-focused gameplay, unsettling creatures, and fragmented storytelling combine to create an unforgettable and uniquely terrifying experience. For those who seek a truly immersive and disturbing horror experience, Amnesia: The Dark Descent remains an essential title that continues to haunt players long after the game is over. Set in the hauntingly atmospheric world of Amnesia: The Dark Descent, Castle Brennenburg serves as a backdrop for terror, intrigue, and dark secrets. But have you ever wondered about the history behind this chilling fortress? Join us as we unravel the enigma of Castle Brennenburg. The origins of Castle Brennenburg. Castle Brennenburg stands as a relic of a time long past, built in the early 12th century by the noble family of Brennenburg. Its architecture is a blend of Gothic and medieval styles, designed to create an imposing presence while also providing formidable defenses. As the years passed, it transformed not just into a home, but a symbol of power and fear. The descent into darkness. Though majestic in its design, Castle Brennenburg harbors a dark legacy. In the late 1700s, it became the residence of one of the most notorious figures in history, Baron Alexander of Brennenburg. His thirst for knowledge and ultimately power led him down a treacherous path. Alexander's fascination with the occult and his experiments with the shadow transformed the castle into a laboratory of horror where unthinkable acts were conducted in the name of progress. The shadow and the creatures. It is said that Alexander summoned the shadow, an incomprehensible force that preys on human fear. This entity, born from the darkest corners of existence, soon manifested into horrific creatures that now haunt Castle Brennenburg. Players of Amnesia: The Dark Descent are thrust into this legacy, forced to confront their own fears while unraveling the mysteries that have plagued the castle for centuries. The fall of the Baron. As the experiments escalated, so did the terror within. Alexander, consumed by his own creations, slowly lost his grip on reality. The castle, once a symbol of power, had become a prison of madness, trapping both its inhabitants and the wretched souls of those who perished within its walls. Legends and legacy. Castle Brennenburg has become more than just a setting. It is a character unto itself. The legends surrounding it serve as a reminder of the consequences of unchecked ambition and the darkness that can fester within us all. Whether you're revisiting the game or discovering it for the first time, Castle Brennenburg invites you to delve into its depths, challenge your own fears, and unearth the dreadful history that numerous players have become entranced by. Castle Brennenburg remains both a sanctuary and a prison, mirroring the eternal struggle of its tragic inhabitants. What haunts this castle is not just a shadow, but the remnants of humanity lost to darkness. Welcome, brave souls, to the chilling world of Amnesia: The Dark Descent. Today we delve deep into the haunting lore of Castle Brennenburg, a place steeped in darkness and hidden secrets. Castle Brennenburg was built in the late 12th century by the noble family of the same name. Initially a fortress, it evolved into a sinister stronghold of dark experiments and unspeakable horrors. As centuries passed, the castle became infamous for its association with the occult. It was said that those who entered never returned, and whispers of madness lurked in the shadows. Wilhelm Brennenburg, the last lord of the castle, was a brilliant scientist obsessed with the mysteries of life and death. His thirst for knowledge led him down a dark path, experimenting with the forbidden arts. Wilhelm sought to uncover the secret of the Silent Ones, creatures from another realm with power beyond comprehension, but in doing so, he opened a gateway to unimaginable horrors. Castle Brennenburg was transformed into a labyrinth of terror, filled with grotesque creatures known as the Gatherers. These monstrosities were created from the unfortunate souls who fell victim to Wilhelm's experiments. These beings roamed the halls, driven by an insatiable hunger for flesh and terror. The once magnificent castle became a prison of fear, wherein the line between the living and the dead blurred. Alexander of Brennenburg, a key figure in the castle's demise, was an integral part of Wilhelm's descent into madness. Driven by a dark purpose, he sought to gain power at any cost, including the lives of countless innocents. Alexander lured victims to the castle, using their anguish to fuel his own wicked ambitions. He believed in achieving transcendence through suffering, pushing the boundaries of morality, if such a concept even remained. Eventually, the consequences of their heinous acts caught up to Wilhelm and Alexander. The very fabric of reality began to unravel, leading to a catastrophic event that would forever seal Castle Brennenburg's dark fate. The castle fell into disrepair, haunted by the souls trapped within. Generations would come and go, yet the ghosts of the past continued to wander its desolate halls. Conclusion. And so, Castle Brennenburg stands, a monument of despair and madness. As players, we find ourselves drawn into its terrifying history, confronting not only the horror that lurks within, but the shadows of our own pasts. Are you prepared to face the chilling truths hidden within the castle's walls? Remember, in the world of amnesia, knowledge is the key, and sometimes ignorance can be a blessing. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the lore of Castle Brennenburg. If you enjoyed this glimpse into the dark, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more content on the horrors that haunt our favorite games. Until next time, brave souls.